Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Hey, good morning, folks.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat.
Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are.
There it is, team. Morning. Morning, wherever you're tuning in from today.
Early bird gets the worm, they say. Here at Positive, we offer a 6-star team. It's a team that help you at every stage of your wealth creation journey.
General advice disclaimer. The information provided is general in nature and does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or needs. Before acting on any information, you should consider whether it is appropriate for your circumstances and seek professional advice from a licensed financial advisor. While every effort has been made to ensure the accuracy of the information, it is not guaranteed. It is based on our understanding of regulations and laws as at the publication date. As these are subject to change, you should talk to a professional advisor for the most up-to-date information. Any examples or illustrations provided are for illustrative purposes only and are not a guarantee of future performance. We do not accept any liability for any loss or damage incurred by reliance on the information provided. Any opinions expressed are subject to change without notice. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and all investments carry risks. Neither the hosts, guests, nor any affiliated entities accept liability for any loss or damage arising from reliance on the information provided. By listening to this podcast and viewing this presentation, you acknowledge and agree to these terms.
Hey, good morning, team. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to another episode of Wealth Coffee Chats with myself, Alex. Part of the financial planning team with Fenton Financial, and also helping out a lot of Positive real estate clients, or Positive Collective. So sorry about last week. Wasn't here. I was expecting maybe not, but I was in flight going to Brisbane. Had an awesome time at the exit plan. So if you were there, you know what it's all about. If you weren't, then you should check it out in the future. Before we start, just want to give you a quick extra housekeeping update. So due to the daylight savings, these podcasts will be coming live at 9:10 in on the eastern border, and then everybody else, that should be fine for you, like Brisbane, WA. You guys are still at I believe at like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. So if you want to jump on these and you feel like, hey, what's going on? Why is it an hour late? Well, that's why. So half of the year, that's what happens. Anyway, over to today's topic. But also before we get there, just a couple of updates. So we chatted about gold last time, and surprise, it's retrieved about 6% over the last couple of days. So it seems like people are starting to take profit. I think we've all seen it in in the news outlets and everywhere like that are seeing those lines lining up to buy physical gold. So I think people are starting to see that 60% run in gold over the last sort of 12 months is quite crazy. So sometimes you have to take profits. So not a bad time to do it if you want to lock in some of those profits, right? Don't forget, you don't lose anything until you sell, and that goes the same way. You don't make anything until you sell. So thank you for everyone who's jumping on as well. I can see that there's a fair few people online right now. So welcome everyone. Hey Pat, good to see you, mate. Good morning. So I was thinking about today's main topic, and looking back at the previous podcast, I kind of felt like a lot of the content was all about sort of investors or someone who potentially maybe later in a investment journey. So I thought today I'm going to address something that I think a lot of people, even seasoned investors with kids or someone who's about to just go into a property purchase, don't really necessarily think about, right? And given that the 5% deposit scheme has come a bit earlier, right? So at the start of October, it seems like everyone is rushing in to purchase a property. So obviously, to take advantage of that scheme, you have to be a first home buyer, which I understand that a lot of you guys online right now are, perhaps, several properties in, you might have your personal PPR and whatnot. So I guess this will be more for anyone with adult kids that are still living with you, or you're trying to get out of your house, and you can't find a way to do it because the deposits are so high. So to break it down, the 5% deposit scheme came into play 1st of October. Essentially, what it does is it allows a first-home buyer to get into the property at a much lower deposit amount as opposed to previously 20%, and in some instances, lender's mortgage insurance. So if you go back a few episodes, you'll probably see other guys on these podcasts covering off on that. So I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I just want to go through an example as to a sort of I think an interesting strategy as to how you could use that and also the other scheme in order to quite quickly build up a deposit and make that move, right? So specifically, if it's your first home and you just stuck, don't know how to get there. And like I said, for the parents with adult kids who want to help their kids out in this on this journey, this is a great example on what to do or how you can help them. So let me just share my screen because I've got a bit of an example here. So because I think we need to actually put some numbers behind it. So let me find a better. Okay, here we go. How's that? All right. So the first sort of chart, I'm going to use an Excel spreadsheet here because it's much easier. But we can sort of see that the 5% deposit scheme applies to a certain value of property, right? So you look at New South Wales up to 1.5 mil, you can use the 5% deposit. Victoria 950 and so on, right? Tassie gets the least amount of that cap at 700,000. So I'm not going to go into detail about like repayments or anything like that because that's a separate topic. I just want to really focus on the strategy around the 5% deposit scheme because we know what that is now, and also how to take advantage of other schemes available to it. So I'm going to use an example where we are purchasing a $900,000 property with a 5% deposit. So I'm going to go to that in a second. But before I do that, let me see, what's this? No, that's not me. Let me go through a couple of settings. Let's see which one works best. Probably what do we got? No, that's all right. That's all right. So essentially, that's going to be our example. So the other scheme that I want to chat about is the first home super scheme, right? So I think a lot of people miss that part because it's not overly advertised, or it's not really a general knowledge as such. But just to give you a couple of examples, I'm just going to cover this up for now, just so that wouldn't give away the secret sauce. But ultimately, let's use an example because I think it's the best part. But just to go a step back, First Home Super Saver Scheme essentially allows you to put money into the super fund and then also in the future withdraw it for the single purpose of buying a first property, right? So sounds kind of like, oh, okay, well, typically I use super for my retirement. Well, this is something that's been around for a couple of years now. And like I said, I don't think it hasn't received as much information or detail about how to use it. And I think right now, it is probably almost like the most effective strategy to use, because previously, I'll show you why it wasn't so popular. But I think now with this 5% deposit, it's super, super important to consider it, especially for those first homeowners. So as you can see, we're going to use an example of buying a property for $900,000, which is about the average of between in those cap ranges, and which means that we need $45,000 as a deposit to be able to do that. So let me now expand this out a bit. Can you guys see this all right? I hope you can. Let me zoom this in a little bit more, because I know you'll want to know the details. So a couple of things here, right, with this scheme. So you can only do $15,000 per year. All right, so that's the maximum that you can put into the super fund towards this scheme, and the total amount that you can have is $50,000. Right, so if you think about it, it's basically about 3 financial years plus change for you to get there. Right, so the most important part here is that it's 15,000, 50,000 cap, and that's each. Right, so if you're a couple, you basically double that. And I'll show you why you might want to consider this as a couple as well. The other key things from a tax perspective is that when the money goes in, it's like a normal salary sacrifice contribution, right? So you pay 15% tax on that. And on the way out, you get a 30% tax offset based on your marginal tax rate, okay? All right, that's all. We know the rules now. It's great. So let's go to an actual example, right? Because I think that's probably where it will stick in terms of the detail here. So I think everyone can see that. I consider it's relatively, yeah, that's perfect. All right. So let's assume an individual on $90,000 income, right? So plus minus, you might be a high income earner, you might be a little bit lower than this, but let's just use an average amount of 90,000. So you go about your day, you receive your 90,000 and you pay tax on that. So, about sort of 19,500 in tax. So if we go ahead and use the First Home Super Saver scheme, essentially we still earn 90,000. And then we go all the way up to the maximum of contributions. So we're adding in 15,000 into the super fund for the purposes of buying our first home. So that drops our assessable income, because this 15,000 is treated similar to or the same as the salary sacrifice. So that gives us a bit of an advantage from a tax perspective, because our tax drops from 19,500 to say 14,500, so saving about $4,800 there. So that's already a great benefit, right? Because we're saving 4,800 just doing this. Hey Tim, let me see if I can. Here we go. Hey Tim, my son Michael will be using 5% deposit plus super amount. Yeah, perfect. So this is probably the strategy that your son might be using. So listen to what I'm about to say, because this is probably something that will accelerate your son's ability to potentially get into the market with this strategy. So what I've done here as well, I've actually added the super tax as well, because remember, like how we know with our rules, there's a 15% tax on the way in, as normal with the salary sacrifice. So essentially, your net tax saving, including the super tax, is about $2,500 on the back of making that additional $15,000 salary sacrifice that you intend to use for the first home purchase. So what does that mean? It means that from the 15,000, you will get to keep about 12,750. So don't forget, you've got a couple of options there. You could keep it, you could sit it in cash within the super account if you want to be super conservative, or if you if you want to invest it as part of your just a default investment strategy, then that is obviously going to be exposed to that market fluctuation as well. So if it's been over the last 12 months, then it's probably done quite well, right? So you probably achieved, circa 15% in return if it was sitting in equities, maybe a little bit more. But if it was a sort of, the liberation day early in the year, then you might be down 20%. So, just got to understand the risks there. So, all right. So now we've got this 15,000 in. Great. We've got the capacity to do that. So let's just say we do that over 2 financial years, right? So that's about 25,500 that we can use towards that kitty that will form part of your deposit. So then we also have got this tax saving that we just achieved as a result of the arbitrage in the tax in the tax rates. So all of a sudden, the combination of these two numbers gives us 35,100. So if you're strategic enough, right, you might want to utilize this, because your argument might be, hey, this sounds like it's going to take a long time. And yes, it can take a long time. However, if you strategize and you do one of these sets of contributions before the end of financial year, let's just say May, June, and then, you've got some savings that you want to put towards this, maybe not, let's just dwell on this. And then in July, you've put another $15,000 in, right? So your savings and personal tax, you've got you're building out your deposit in a tax effective way, and also you've got access to it in the next quarter. So the reason why it's a quarter, just like a little accounting thing, is that the super fund has to report that first before you can access it, which takes about a quarter to achieve. So you remember what was our deposit? 45,000. We are already at 35,000, so we're about $10,000 short. So if you have a partner in a similar position, you could be doubling that. So you could be at 70,000 straight away, right? So if you did just those two steps, 15,000 one financial year, 15,000 start of the next financial year, 70,000 is your deposit right there and then, right? As opposed to, saving on, what was that, avocado and toast. It's been a long time since I had to use that. But anyway, if you if that's still applicable, I don't know what's now, like matcha coffee or something. But anyway, if you're foregoing those, you potentially don't have to. But anyway, so you're up to 70,000 right there and then. So that's a pretty good result, don't you think? And that will essentially, within the next, what are we now? End of October nearly. In the next, say, 9-10 months, you could be starting from zero. You could be getting into this type of property purchase if you plan out your steps and you are able to make these contributions. Obviously, if you're on a high income, your ability to do this will actually be much greater. And if you're potentially, just in a graduate position or still doing sort of retail work, then, unless you're living at home, it might be a little bit at home with parents, that is, it might be a little bit difficult. But ultimately, it depends on, how much you want to go through with this, and how much you want to get this property, right? So I know that a lot of people want to get into their first property for whatever reason. They might not want to pay rent or whatnot, or just get on the property journey altogether. So, typically you need to be in this property for about 12 months before you turn it into investment, if you want to go down that path. But ultimately, this is a pretty good strategy to use to accelerate your ability to save, because again, these funds are there for property purchase only, right? It's not it's not something that you can say, oh, I've saved all this money, I'm going to go and spend it on a brand new car, right? So no. So there's specific rules to get this money out. And so if if, for example, you did go this far, you did get all of this sort of organized, and you've got that lumpy deposit now, well, to get it out, you have to actually do it through the ATO, not through your super fund, right? So that's what we help our clients with this particular step as well. But ultimately, give me one sec. I'm trying to work out how to get rid of this shared screen. Here we go. I'm back. Yeah. So ultimately, you have to go through the ATO to apply for the release. Typically, they'll need to see that you've got a genuine contract of sale for these funds. Could take, a couple of weeks to get it all organized. I've seen some clunkiness in it in early days, but ultimately, it's gone much, much better. So right now, I think that this strategy is the one that you want to utilize if you are in this position. First home buyer, you want to build out a deposit. And previously, right, like for the same amount, for the same property, what have we got? 20% on 900. Well, what's that, about 180? 180, right? So previously, this strategy at 50,000 didn't make too much sense, because it would literally take you 3 years to get there. Yes, you're saving some tax. Yes, there's some accumulation from the investment. But the deposit was so large that this scheme, the first home super scheme, just didn't fit into the narrative. So you really needed to have something else on the sideline for you to be able to take advantage of it. But now at 5%, I actually think that this is probably one of the most misunderstood and underutilized schemes that you could be using if you're a first home buyer, if you want to help out your kids to get onto their property journey. Look, again, you have to speak to your broker to make sure that you can actually afford the repayments on these loans as well. I think that's another thing that no one's talking about. That, hey, yes, all right, you can get the 5% deposit, get into it, but what about your serviceability? What about, once you settle, how you're going to be managing those repayments? You want to be across all of that as well. But ultimately, if your number one goal is to get that deposit, this is the one that you want to use, right? This is the one that will give you accelerated ability to save. Have a deposit at 5%. It's a no-brainer. Like I said, individually, probably take 2 financial years. If you time it right, that could be literally several months. If you are a couple, you could smash this out and literally and exceed this very, very quickly, right? And be on your way. So, look, guys, I hope this gave you a little bit of an idea. If you've got, like I said, young kids, when I say kids, young adults who are looking to get into property, and they don't know how to do it, or they have an excuse about building out a deposit. Well, this is the one. And then there's no excuse beyond that, right? So 900, that's probably an average price, but you can get a much lower price property on the market. So you don't have to be at that level. If your price range is a bit higher, then you just got to account for high deposit there. So I hope that helped, guys. Thank you for jumping on and for being interactive. I could see that there was a fair few people jumping on, and slightly different content. I want to address everyone's sort of journey, not just the ones that are already building out and sort of tax stuff, but also the ones that are just starting out, because I think it's super important. If you get these strategies right, then you're going to be receiving the benefit of them in the future. All right, guys, until next week, see you later, and chat to you guys soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching another episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts from the 6-Star team here at positivementor.com.au.